guys, welcome back to the show. So this week we have another fun topic. We're going to be doing our top 5 lands in the parks, and we'll just kind of run through that list and talk about why we chose each one. We'll probably have some, I think, that are similar, but I think we'll have a couple that are pretty different too. So I'm pretty excited. Do you want to go ahead, Ryan, and start off with your number 5?
Yeah, so top 5 lands at Walt Disney World. It's tough. It's really tough because it was tough. We were just talking about this. What actually like constitutes as a land? So a couple of ours, we definitely have a couple like different ones in there, but that's okay. So my number 5 is probably gonna make a couple people upset, more than a couple people, but. My number 5 is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is super. It's an amazing land. I can't argue with that. It's definitely in my list of top 5. But the reason I have a couple of other ones ahead of it is because there's only 2 rides. There's only 2 attractions. And the theming is really, really good, particularly in the Millennium Falcon area. Like that part is so good. I love just walking around the Millennium Falcon. Like Imagineering did such a good job of recreating that. And I think it flows really well. They did a good job making it flow well with like the what's the Muppets land name? Like it's Grand Avenue, and having that little like tunnel, like something you'd actually find in like SoCal. It's supposed to be like what's it called? Griffith Observatory, like that little tunnel that you go through to get to the observatory, which it actually looks really similar to that in real life. So I think they did a really good job blending it. Really, the anchor of Galaxy's Edge is Rise of Resistance. I mean, that ride holds the land up like no other ride in no other land, in my opinion. Because, Galaxy's Edge opened in last summer, 2019, and you didn't see the crowds that you saw, right before COVID shut down the parks when Rise was open. And I think that's a testament to how good that ride is and how much the land really needs Rise of the Resistance. But having said all those positive things, on the flip side, there's the area around Rise of the Resistance is it's like bare. And I get that's kind of what they were going for. But some of that stuff doesn't really work for me that well. Just like because we're talking about this too. The first time I went to Galaxy's Edge, I was actually at Disneyland, but it's the same layout. We walked through the Rise of Resistance side, and I was like, "What? Where's the theming?" And but then once you get past that, and you get into the meat of the land, yeah, the buildings, the marketplace, it's all really, really well done. But yeah, it's just that part just kind of I think they could have done a little bit better of a job. And when you compare it to something like Pandora, I still think it's a little bit below that. But having said that, I love Galaxy's Edge. It's amazing. So, Luke, what is your top 5 or your number 5?
So I'll give my Galaxy's Edge take later because it's on my list, but it's higher up. But my number 5 is actually Main Street USA, and I know it's not really a land like the others where they have rides and restaurants and shops and stuff. This is really just one restaurant and a bunch of shops. But to me, it's kind of what you think about when you think of Disney World, walking through Main Street USA and you see the castle there. So I'm including kind of the hub area too in this. Just that whole front part of Magic Kingdom. It gives you that happy feeling. It's supposed to feel like back in the day where Walt grew up, but it's still got like a fantasy twist on it. I feel like, it's just quintessential Disney. I love it. You can't be in a bad mood walking down Main Street USA. The music is great. The just the whole atmosphere of it, especially at nighttime when the lights are going and you just kind of take your time walking through. You got the castle lit up behind you and stuff. It's just beautiful, and I'm jealous of the people that get to stand there and work there all day because they get to soak in that atmosphere. So that's my number 5.
That's a really good one. I actually hadn't. I never think of Main Street as a land, but it technically is, and it's like, yeah, it's that moment where you know, like, okay, I'm at Magic Kingdom now. Like, the rest of the day is gonna be amazing. That's the signal. So, should I go ahead with my number 4? My number 4 is Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom. This land is amazing, and I think some people might be upset that I have a higher than Galaxy's Edge, but I love Tomorrowland. It's so good. There's so many things to do there, and I think that's the land's like main strength. There's so many rides, there's so many attractions. The whole place feels like a little city, like more so than any other land in like any of the parks. It feels like its own like contained little like community, and I think it's really, really unique. Obviously you have rides like Space Mountain, Carousel Progress, the People Mover. Those 3 rides are among the best in any of the parks, I think. And then you have like some other smaller stuff. You know, you have the kind of like show that they do there, like, I don't know, I forget what it's called. It's Incredibles, right? Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. It's like Incredibles Dance Party or something, but yeah, it just, the whole land flows really well. Like the theming, it flows really well. There's so much like, it's very visually stunning, and there's always something going on, whether it's the People Mover passing by or the cars from the Tomorrowland Speedway going by. You know, it's really a complete experience, and at night it is incredible. The lights, just the whole atmosphere at night is so, it's one of my favorite things about the Disney parks. So yeah, my number 4 is Tomorrowland. What is yours?
So my number 4 is Asia over at Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom, first of all, the whole park is just like probably the best theme park that I've ever been to. I've never been to Tokyo Disney, so I'm sure that opinion will change once I go there. But as far as U.S. parks, I haven't been to a better themed park. And I just love Asia because it's so immersive. Every inch is themed. You know, there's like posters on the wall for the tiger track in it, and it looks like a real thing you would see in Asia. That track in itself is amazing, the detail there and getting to see all the animals. Expedition Everest, when you like walk up and you see it in the distance over by the lake. What's that lake called where Rivers of Light is? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. It has a name. It probably has a name. But anyways, that whole area, just seeing it, and as you're walking up, you know, the queue kind of starts on that walk up because there's like backpacks hanging from the walls of like the bathroom and stuff, and you feel like you're about to go on this journey. And I just love that about Animal Kingdom as a whole, but especially the Asia part. The 2 rides are awesome. The river ride is super cool, even though you get soaked. The jungle trek is amazing, and then the food is good too. Like even the quick service at Yak and Yeti is really good. We were talking about the other day the China place at Epcot, and I would say that it's just as good. So yeah, that's my number 4, Asia over at Animal Kingdom.
So my number 3 is also Asia at Animal Kingdom. Yeah, basically everything you just said. I mean, it's a really good land. There's so much detail in it. And I think the reason why, I mean, I don't know the rest of your list, but for me personally, I think I like it a little more than the Africa part of Animal Kingdom because of Everest. Like, because of that, you have like a visual anchor in the land, and you can sort of see it like wherever you go in the land, and it's so cool. Yeah, like 3 really solid attractions if you're including the Tiger walkthrough, which I think is the best walkthrough attraction at Disney, and Everest, which is, you know, top 7 attractions for I think us both at Disney. Yeah, basically everything you said. Super detailed, really good attractions, really good food, like you also said. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So how about your number 3?
So number 3, for me is Frontierland over in Magic Kingdom. Do you have that on your list? You don't? Okay. So Frontierland, I love. First of all, I just love the Wild West. That time period is awesome. Love Western movies, everything. So Frontierland is fun for me to just walk around and be in that atmosphere. But you can't go wrong with the 2 rides, Big Thunder and Splash, which Splash will be rethemed, but that's okay because it's basically the same ride. And just, yeah, the food is good. I like Pecos Bills. I know not a lot of people like it, but I think it's pretty good as far as quick service goes. Tom Sawyer Island is super fun. We were talking about that before, about just how it's underratedly immersive. No one really goes there, but when you're there, yeah, I would say it's just as immersive as some of the new stuff. Especially like the abandoned fort that you can walk around in the creepy caves. So yeah, I just love it. The atmosphere. The Country Bears is one of my favorite shows at Magic Kingdom. Again, I know like some people don't like it, but I love the Country Bears. They better not ever go away. Someday they will, and that'll be the ride that I ride over. Yeah, Frontierland. That's my number 3.
That's a really good choice. If there was one that I am, because that's not on my list, but if there's one that I'm really sad about not being able to put on my list, it's Frontierland. Yeah, so yeah, I worked at Pecos Bill, and for the Disney College program, it was amazing. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and so Frontierland, particularly like that little corner with Splash Mountain and Pecos Bill, will always hold a special place in my heart because of that. And yeah, it's super detailed. And Tom Sawyer, like you said, that one, I mean, I don't think a lot of people even know that exists. Like they know you can go there, but you know, a lot of people don't take the time out of their day because they're too busy riding Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, whatever. But yeah, that is a really underrated little corner of the park. So good choice. My number 2 is Pandora.
Oh, really?
At Animal Kingdom. Really? Oh no. Pandora, dude. Yeah, so Pandora is, I think, the best thing Disney has done since, like, in this new era of, like, the Bob Iger era, I guess you would call it. I think it is the best thing they've done. Pandora, I'm so glad that Joe Rohde had a lot of say-so in the building and everything in that land, the development, because it fits so well in Animal Kingdom. When they first announced Pandora, I think most Disney fans, and like ourselves included, I know for me, we're like, what? Avatar in the Animal Kingdom? No, I wasn't excited either. It didn't really make any sense on paper. But, you know, they pulled it off in such a way that nobody was expecting. I mean, it fits not only with like the theme of conservation and, you know, respecting the planet, and it fits in that regard. It fits in the regard of where, you know, it's all about sort of like the natural, natural part of our world, and then the alien world is sort of all about like the natural beauty of the planet. And it also fits in the way of Pandora's not really about Avatar the movie, and that's what I like about it so much. It's really about like the wonder of the natural world, and it's about the animals who live there. You know, like the Banshee. That's the focus of A Flight of Passage. You know, there's really no mention whatsoever to the movie, and the river ride, Navi River Journey, it's really about like the weird plants and, you know, all the like the weird stuff going on with the natural ecosystem. So I think that part's really cool. Flight of Passage is my favorite ride in any of the Disney parks. I mean, seriously, I've been to Hong Kong Disney, Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disney, Disneyland California. I've not been to Shanghai, but I would love to someday. And out of all those parks, Flight of Passage is my favorite ride. It fits really well with the land. The land fits amazing. And Pandora at night is probably the best Disney experience you can get anywhere in the world. It is so good. Pandora at night. All the plants that light up, the freaking like ground lights up. It's so good. I love Pandora so much, and it's my number 2. How about you?
So yeah, my number 2 is Pandora 2. Same thing, basically. No, you're good. Yeah, because I remember the first time just walking through and coming around the corner and you seeing the floating mountains, and it's just like, whoa. How did they do that? I don't know. It's a moment that you don't get very often anymore in theme parks because, you know, we all know how this stuff is built. So it's cool whenever they do something that you're like, I've never seen anything like that before. Yeah, pretty much all the things that you said. It fits really well with Animal Kingdom, even though on paper you think it wouldn't. I think it's awesome that they managed to build it and make it effective, that it's become a fan favorite, even though people might not care for the movie. Like personally, like I like the movie, but I probably haven't watched it in years. And it's cool that I can still go to the land and enjoy it without being a big fan of the movie. Which I think is that's a strong point. I feel like for a land, if you can still enjoy it without being like diehard into whatever IP is tied to it. You know, like for example, Toy Story Land. If you don't like Toy Story, you're probably gonna hate the land because it's like Toy Story in your face. But yeah, that's my number 2. Do you want to go ahead and do your number 1?
Yeah. So before I hit my number 1, the thing about Pandora 2 I forgot to mention is well, I kind of mentioned, and you kind of did too, that it's not like reliant on you being a fan of the movies, and I think that's why, me personally, I like it more than Star Wars Land. I like it more than Toy Story Land, because it feels like it exists in its own, like it's unique to Animal Kingdom, like all those experiences. So yeah, but anyways, my number 1 is a little bit of a cheat, and I didn't realize it was a cheat until we started talking before we started recording here. But my number 1 is the World Showcase at Epcot. So the World Showcase at Epcot. I always thought it was a land. Maybe it's not. But I mean, to be fair, it does have the same amount of attractions as like some of the other lands would. But it is huge. So yeah. But World Showcase at Epcot, man, it's on a whole different level for me, because I think it functions in a way that no other place at Disney does anymore. I mean, I think it's a leftover from the original idea of Epcot, which was, okay, we want people to come to Epcot. They're going to learn about like the world. They're going to learn about other cultures. They're going to learn about technology while being entertained and while, you know, being in this super like magical environment. And I think we've seen Epcot in largely most Disney parks in the world kind of go away from this idea. And, you know, in some cases, I think that's probably a good thing. You know, I don't think necessarily everything at the original Epcot worked as well as they would have liked. But the World Showcase, I think, is something that's still like left over from that era. It's something we're never going to ever see again. I mean, you know, Disney would never do something like this again. Just the sheer scale of World Showcase and what it represents. You know, like a place where you can come and you're inside the Disney bubble, but kind of not really, because you're no, I mean it's a totally different experience, because you can visit all these um, different representations of these cultures from around the world, and you're the people who work in those pavilions are actually from that country. I mean, now with COVID, they're going to go away from that for a little while, but yeah, so it makes it a really, really unique experience that you really can't get anywhere else, unless you go to like an actual World's Fair, which, or actually visit the country that it's those pavilions are representing. But it's just a, I think the World Showcase transcends like what Disney is. Like it takes it to a whole nother level. And I know a lot of people don't really care for the World Showcase because it doesn't have all the fancy new attractions, or the shiny characters. There's no Star Wars, there's no well, there's Frozen now, but and Ratatouille. But that's like, and I'm not going to go off on too much of a tangent. I really could in this in this area, but I think that's at the core of why I like stuff that's not just based on characters, based on the hot new movie at the parks. Because, dude, I learned how to play. I wanted to learn how to play guitar because of Rock and Roller Coaster. I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, that's and my current profession, I'm a flight attendant, and that was sort of brought about by the experiences that I had at Epcot, and I think Disney, I think they sort of underestimate what kind of influence they can have on people, and I think there is a real danger in just sort of saying at the parks, well, we're just going to do everything based on like Pixar movies and Star Wars movies, because Disney does have like such a big impact on young people growing up who are going to those parks, and I think World Showcase is sort of the shining example of Disney using their power and influence to educate people on the culture, is particularly because as Americans, we necessarily don't, being sort of in this part of the globe, we don't normally get exposed to a lot of different cultures. So I think it's a really valuable experience that you can gain by going to World Showcase. And I think it's like Disney using its power and influence in the most like awesome way. Yeah. But anyways, sorry I went off on such a tangent. What is your number one?
That's good. And just to like piggyback off of that, I do agree. I think Disney needs to, I mean, I feel like all of us as fans have that moment of like a big influence in our life from a Disney Parks attraction, and like yours is World Showcase, and that's not IP driven. And like what got me into theme parks in the first place was Expedition Everest. There's no characters on that. Like I love Mickey Mouse, I love all those things, but going to Disney since I was a little kid, I wasn't really into it till I rode that ride that has no IP, but I was like, whoa, they can build that? Like a mountain that's a roller coaster? I've never seen that. And there's a Yeti in here. Like, that's crazy. So I think, yeah, I agree. I wish Disney would kind of realize they hold more power than just Marvel and Pixar, That being said, my number one land is IP driven, so I'm kind of a hypocrite. My number one land is Galaxy's Edge. I think it's the best. I mean, I'm biased. Star Wars is my favorite franchise like ever. Even though it's not based on the original trilogy, I think that's okay. It still gives me the vibe of Star Wars. With the Falcon there and stuff, to be honest, it feels like the OT. The only difference is that sometimes you see Rey walking around, but that doesn't bother me at all. Rise is awesome. To me, that's my favorite ride ever. Millennium Falcon is super fun, especially when you get like just your group in the cabin. 'cause it'll hold 6. So if you can get a group of 6, it's like you got to. 'Cause that's, I feel like, when that ride really shines is when it's just you guys in the cabin. It's so much more fun because you're not worried about like, oh, I don't want to be too loud because the stranger or whatever. Oh, I hope I don't crash because, this guy waited an hour behind me. But when it's your family and your friends, it's like, I'm going to yell at you because you crashed into the wall and you better shoot those TIE fighters down. And the verbal abuse, I think, adds to the experience. But I wrote it the other day, I wrote it again the other day, and my brother took on the Han Solo persona of yelling at everybody. So it was good. But yeah, just the land as a whole, walking through, I feel like there's so much exploration, especially the first time I visited. I didn't expect it to be so big because I was kind of shielding myself from any spoilers, so I saw no photos, no aerial view of like construction. I didn't want to see it. So when I was first walking through, I was like, this is way bigger than I thought. The marketplace is awesome, even though it kind of feels like Morocco in World Showcase to me. The little market strip with like little shops on each side, but in a good way. It's cool. It feels very Star Wars. My only complaint is I wish that they would have delivered on the like droids and aliens thing that they said when they announced it, of like walking around. They don't do that. They might. I mean, there's only like 10,000 people in the parks right now because of COVID, so maybe now's the time. Yeah, maybe now's the time to do it because there's nobody around. But yeah, I love it. The food's good. Actually, all of the new quick service food is good. Of like the new lands, Pandora, Galaxy's Edge, Toy Story. Way better than like chicken tenders. But yeah, that's my number 1.
Dude, that's a good choice for number 1. I won't lie. I think I know you like it more than me. My question to you is, so you like Galaxy's Edge more than Pandora, and I like Pandora more. Why do you like Galaxy's Edge more? Is it like about the IP or just the whole thing?
It's probably, I think the IP takes it up a notch, whereas Pandora's prettier, and I'm more in awe of the floating mountains. But the nostalgia of seeing the Falcon and being able to go in and just walking around and seeing stormtroopers like on the roof and just feeling like I'm in a Star Wars movie, to me takes to the next level. And it also feels a little bit more alive to me than Pandora, with those characters walking around, whereas Pandora doesn't have walk around characters. But if they added like Na'vi, that would be awesome. Okay, well, I have a serious question for you. Since you worked at Pecos Pills, what is the best entree item there and why?
Well, to be fair, I worked there in 2015, and they have since changed the menu. So the best thing on the menu was just the regular burger or whatever it was. But I've been there since, and the best thing on the menu now is the burrito. I'm a really big fan of the burrito.
They took away the guac at the toppings bar, and that was the last time I went because I loved that free guac. But it's gone. So that was probably a couple years ago, though.
Well, that about wraps it up for us. Guys, thanks for watching. Leave us a comment below your top 5 lands of Walt Disney World. Sorry I had to cheat for my number 1, but I love World Showcase so much that just eclipsed my... I had a lapse in judgment. So, guys, but anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. One last question before we end. Crap, I forgot. I'll cut this out. What's your favorite Pecos Bills food item?